Welcome back. What will be the impact of last weekend's March for Our Lives? On one side, there was undeniable passion and purpose from hundreds of thousands of teenagers in Washington, around the nation, and on the Suncoast. If they're not old enough to vote yet, folks, they will be soon. And that suits gun control advocates and many Democrats just fine. Not so with a lot of gun rights supporters who derided the kids, the cause, and the motive. And joining us by Skype are 13-year-old Kaylee Majowski, who attended the rally in Washington, and her mother Amanda, former State Representative Keith Fitzgerald, who teaches political science at New College, and Eric Arroyo of the Sarasota Young Republicans, and Elizabeth DeGinnis, who covered the Sarasota rally for the Herald Tribune. And Kylie, let me start with you and just ask you what you got of being at that rally on Saturday.
I would have to say it was one of those things where there was just so much emotion and passion and feeling in the environment that it was one of those things where you were just so inspired by everything. And it wasn't hateful and it wasn't rude. It was passion and it was anger that had built up to a point where we've decided that enough is enough, and we've decided that we're going to stop letting the children of America be slaughtered.
What has been your reaction when you have heard people on the other side of the issue who believe in the Second Amendment and believe in their rights to carry and bear arms basically say a lot of critical things about you and your fellow teenagers, and whether or not you're old enough and mature enough to be forcing your opinions on the rest of the nation?
I think that if I'm old enough to be shot, I think I'm old enough to have an opinion about being shot. And with all due respect to the other side, I think the Second Amendment was written 200 years ago and times have changed. And when there's this much hate and this much murder happening, I think there should be certain exceptions. And I feel like some people are trying to make it about anything but guns, when at the end of the day, guns actually do kill.
Amanda, how has Parkland changed how you talk to your kids about school and about gun violence?
So I think it wasn't just Parkland. I think it was, I remember Sandy, and I remember every moment since then. When you have children, it's nerve-wracking to think about what it means when they come off the bus, and when they're going to have lockdown drills, and how to tell them to both be safe and be conscious and be an activist. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of my daughter at this moment. I'm incredibly inspired by her generation. I'm incredibly motivated by the fact that they want to take back their own lives. This isn't right or left. This is just pure safety of their own well-being when they're in a public situation, which is their school environment. So I just try to focus on keeping them both safe and motivated.
Elizabeth, we saw these rallies all over the entire country, including here in Sarasota and in Bradenton. Was the rally here in Sarasota any different than you expected it to be?
I think I was struck actually by not how many students were there, but how many, I would say 65 plus people were there. These people have really come out. Sarasota has 34% of our population is over 65. And I saw one sign that said, "I'm here for my grandchildren's lives." I think that was a popular sentiment.
And that brings me to you fellas, because we're all wondering what, if any, impact will this have on our local politics. You saw one young man in the rally in Washington who said this.
Politicians either represent the people or get out. The people demand a law banning the sale of assault weapons. The people demand we prohibit the sale of high-capacity magazines. The people demand universal background checks. Stand for us or beware, the voters are coming.
Now, Eric, I would imagine you don't agree with everything that young man said, but do Republicans take note that there seems to be a lot of energy by those youngsters who are about voting age and those people who support them?
Yes, I don't think it's a partisan issue. I think no political party right now is in favor of more mass shootings. I think we all need to find common ground and stop these guns from getting in the hands of bad people. There's many guns out there and many laws that are not being enforced. For example, in the secondary market, felons can get guns very easily. And I think we need to find that common ground, not have a sweeping ban.
But Keith, you saw people like our friend Rod Thompson say that if these kids were, they're about arming teachers or somebody else in the school to protect their lives, that would be one thing, but gun control of any sort would not have stopped what happened in Parkland.
Well, Rod can say whatever he wants to say, but the fact of the matter is that every country that has enacted serious control of semi-automatic weapons has seen a dramatic decrease in mass shootings. Similarly, every country that has serious regulation of the sale of weapons, serious background checks, have also seen dramatic drops. It's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact. And let me just say, first of all, I admire these kids so much. They were awesome, but I'm not surprised. I work with kids that age all the time, and I don't underestimate their capabilities. It will make a difference.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up. We'll have much more on the March for Our Lives right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about the March for Our Lives and the impact on the midterm elections. And joining us by Skype, our 13-year-old Kylie Majakowski, who attended the rally in Washington, and her mother, Amanda. Former State Representative Keith Fitzgerald, who teaches political science at New College. Eric Arroyo of the Sarasota Young Republicans, and Elizabeth DeGenis, who covered the Sarasota rally for the Herald Tribune. Kylie, let me ask you this. What do you think the impact of this rally in Washington and elsewhere will have on your representatives?
So I think the reason I found this rally so interesting was that it was almost like, because it was majority of it was led by children and teenagers and the younger generation. And it was almost us announcing ourselves as a generation. So I think the impact is we were informing them, not just the politics that have said that guns are good, but the politicians, but also the politicians that have not taken a stance. We are like pulling the people out of the dark, because if you have the power to make a change, then you should be making it. And we're here, and we've said that enough is enough, and we're ready to vote out of office. And it's the basics of politics that if you're not supporting our beliefs, we're going to vote you out.
How old are you?
13.
Wow. Okay. Amanda, let me ask you this. There is part of an interview that was done yesterday that has really gotten a lot of attention, and it's former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who went on CNN yesterday and said this.
How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve their problem, do something about maybe taking CPR classes or trying to deal with situations that where there is a violent shooter that you can
How are they looking at other people?
I
would ask you, they took action.
Yeah, they took action to ask someone to pass a law. They didn't take action to say, how do I, as an individual, deal with this problem? How am I going to do something about stopping bullying within my own community? What am I going to do to actually help respond to issues?
You know, an editorial in the Washington Post this afternoon said CPR is not going to be a lot of help when the blood is all over on the ground. And but as a mom who actually has a young daughter there who is incredibly well spoken, how would you respond to this, Senator?
I would respectfully tell the senator that that won't matter in the moment. And honestly, they know how to do both. So if they need to do CPR, they'll do it, and they shouldn't have to.
You know, Eric, is it difficult because a lot of folks have very strong opinions on both sides of this issue, but when you hear a comment like, you know, from Senator Santorum like that, people kind of just go to their dispositions in terms of their corners, and they don't hear each other.
They don't hear each other, and I think what we need to realize is that everybody that went out to the protest was exercising their First Amendment rights. And imagine you told them that they couldn't protest. That's the same level of fury or anger that people feel when you try to do a blanket sweep against the Second Amendment. I'm in support of the Second Amendment. I think it was put in there for a reason. I think our forefathers You know, because of Shays' rebellion, these concerns came about. If you look at these countries like Turkey, Cuba, Venezuela, they've enacted sweeping gun reforms, or they eliminated guns altogether, and it did not help. Look at a developed country like Australia, and they in 1996 enacted their bill, a sweeping gun ban, and you know, a 3.2 increase in homicide, 44% increase in robberies, and there's just no backing of these statistics.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but Elizabeth, was there any sign of any counter-protests here in Sarasota or on the Sunken Coast, or basically was this a day for those folks who want something done in terms of gun control, basically were out there?
Yeah, I didn't really see any kind of notable counter-protesters. I will say, because of their very public location over there on Gulfstream, right by the Ringling Bridge, you often will get people driving by in cars who might say something negative. You get a lot of honking too, positive honking, but that was kind of the extent of the negative backlash that I saw publicly that day at the march.
Keith, let me run something by you, since you are the political analysis extraordinaire. The New York Times reported today the gun debate could play out very differently in House and Senate races as Republicans strain to save suburban congressional districts where gun control is popular, and Democrats defend Senate seats in red states where the Second Amendment is sacrosanct. Both apply here in Sarasota, in the Sun Coast, and across Florida.
So I think that's a good analysis. I think it's true. First thing I think we should say, though, Kylie summed it up really well. This was the announcement of a generation that they are now significant. These kids are not our future. They are now. There are polls out right now that say that 18 to 25-year-olds have as much interest in voting this fall as 55 to 65-year-olds. This has never been seen before. So we're going to be looking at a very different electorate. Some of these young people are going to be out voting, and it will make a difference. And let me also just say that, you know, the Second Amendment stuff, there really isn't any Second Amendment issue here. The idea of a ban on semi-automatic weapons has already been considered by the Supreme Court. It's been found to be, or by the circuit courts. Supreme Court denied cert. It's constitutional. Second Amendment is fine. It's not going anywhere. So, and that just needs to be said, because there's not a juxtaposition between people who support the Second Amendment and people who want to do something about it.
But you are assuming that some of these young people who are turning 18 years old will vote. Historically, young people that age do not vote, and the question is, will they in the now have impact on the midterms?
Right, and so what I'm saying is that we've never seen this expression of interest among people that age at this level ever before in any research. That doesn't mean they'll vote necessarily at the same rate as older people, but at a higher rate. And their positions on these issues are remarkably different from older people.
Eric, are you concerned in terms of they always talk about voter enthusiasm, and that because of everything with the president and other things, that the Democrats really have a lot of enthusiasm right now. We saw in the special election for House 72, the Republicans struggled to get their vote out there. Are you concerned this is just one more thing that Republicans have to be aware of, that the other side is energized because of issues like this, and we got to work on things?
I don't think there are two sides to this. I think everybody's tackling the same issue, which is getting guns out of the hands of bad people, stopping these mass shootings. We just have to find a solution so we can work together. Again, finding common ground.
Kylie, let me ask you, in our time left here, what do you do now? You went to that rally. What do you do when you go back to school?
I think the biggest power that anyone who can't currently vote has is just spreading the word. I think that's the most important thing to do at this point, is stating our opinions and reminding the world that it's 5 years away till I can vote. And once I do, I know that I'm going to be speaking for what I believe in and voting for people who support my beliefs. So until then, it's remaining just as passionate about what I believe in, and it's remaining just as angry about how many people have been killed, and it's remaining just as determined to make the future brighter.
And Amanda, what is the sense in your community, because we live in a very diverse community, and you might well have friends who have different opinions in terms of gun control and Second Amendment rights. Is it getting more difficult to talk to your neighbors about this, or is it becoming easier?
I think I don't think it's more difficult. I think it's actually because we just want our children to be safe. I don't think that this is this is not a Second Amendment issue for us. We were just talking about how in my generation we didn't worry about this. So we want our children safe. It's really that simple.
Okay. All right, we have to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment. Stay with us. Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So Amanda and Kylie, this is your chance. What do you want people who have been watching this today and watch what happened over the weekend to take away from it?
For me, it's just enough is enough. And as a generation, we are completely prepared to pull the politicians that haven't taken a stance out of the dark, and we are going to make a change.
Amanda?
For me as a mom, no more. I want more of this. I think these kids are amazing, and I think they're going to change what's happening in Washington.
Elizabeth, what was the sense that you got of the young people who came out here on the Suncoast? Same thing as in Washington? I mean, this is, this area is a little bit less diverse and politically than, everybody going to Washington.
I think a lot of kids feel a similar way that Kylie expressed, which is that they feel like this has become a reality for them in the classroom. Some people feel scared to go to school. I think there was a lot of emotion at the march on Saturday. Kids were really, fired up about this issue. And I was going to say about the voting issue is that I saw so many signs that said things like vote them out. There are these signs circulating nationwide that said I'll be eligible to vote in, an insert year here, depending on the kid's age. And I think that is such a common theme now in these protests, unlike the protests I've seen in the last year and a half.
Keith and Eric, there's a new poll that came out by the Associated Press, NORC, that finds 69% of Americans now favor stricter gun control measures, up from 61% the same time, October 2016, 55% when the AP first started asking the question. Overall, 90% of Democrats, 54% of gun owners, and 50% of Republicans now favor stricter gun laws. But it does not seem anything really profound is about to take place in Washington. Eric.
Well, I think the protest was done because nothing was being done, but I think there's a wave and you can feel it. Things are going to happen. Things are going to change. And I think we need to be mindful of the fact that there are laws currently in place that we need to start enforcing and maybe address some of the issues that are being presented with some new laws.
Keith, do you see anything happening in Congress?
Well, not this session, but congressional control may shift from one group of people to the other. And while it's nice to frame this as not a partisan issue, I think it's also the case that one party tends to be on one side of this issue and one tends to be on the other. It's really inspiring that these kids did not play some kind of culture clash game. They're focused in on a specific issue and they want action. But on the other hand, if I'm a politician who is not listening, I'm quaking in my boots because they're coming. They're keeping score, and it's very impressive. They know not only who their enemies are, they know who their friends are, and they're going to be supporting the candidates who care about their issue as they come of age, and college-age students as well. So it may not happen with this Congress, but it might with the next.
Eric, what would you tell some of the Republicans who are running for office right now? You have an incumbent, Vern Buchanan. You have an open congressional seat here with two people who are not really into talking about gun control and elevating ages or so forth, but you're also hearing what the passion is out there from some of these young people.
Yeah, I would just say don't make it a political issue. Make it it's not left and right, it's right and wrong, right? That's what they say. So address the issue at hand, which is, bullying in schools, is mental health, it is felons getting their hands on guns. Address these issues, because I don't think it's a political issue. I think everybody should be hands-on in this right now.
Okay, and we will have to leave it there. Thank you all. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. 13-year-old Kylie Majikowski, I don't know about that, who attended the rally in Washington along with her mother Amanda, former State Representative Keith Fitzgerald, who teaches political science at New College, Eric Arroyo of the Sarasota Young Republicans, and Elizabeth DeGenis, who covered the Sarasota rally for the Herald Tribune.